good tools out there for our business to help, whether it be in the operations, in being able to come up with different ideas for marketing. But there's so many that we just don't really know how to use. And LinkedIn is probably one of the most obvious ones, Dennis, where I know I'm not getting the best use out of it.
I mean, I know I'm paying the $109 a month to have LinkedIn or whatever I do, and it's there, but it's like, I'm not sure. I'm like you. I'm not sure I'm really using it effectively. I mean, I know I have lots of followers and people I'm connected to, but it's like
Mhm.
I don't know if I use it to the fullest extent.
Yeah, it's a tool that it's kind of in some capacity. I think it exists and everybody out there has a LinkedIn profile, but we're not really maximizing its utility. We're not really getting the best use out of it. This is a topic that I really want to dive deeper into. So today we have Rae Greenip, who is an expert in LinkedIn. Last time she came here, she told us a little bit about how we set it up and the basics about that. But we really want to dive in deeper and learn a little bit more about how to get better utility out of LinkedIn. She shares a few secrets with us, with I hadn't known existed, and you'll see because I was busy taking notes in this one. This is a really good podcast.
You'll notice Benny was really pretty quiet in this one, but he's taking lots of notes
Yeah.
and writing stuff down. So I think hopefully as listeners, you'll do the same.
Yeah, definitely give this a good listen to. Listen to it twice if you need to, because I think there's some really good stuff in here from Rae.
WFH with two guys. Now here's Benny and Dennis.
This is really a different way of looking at promoting yourself, Dennis. When I think about marketing and I think about putting myself out there, LinkedIn is not really kind of part of my thinking, but it really should be. It's a mechanism, it's a tool that we should be using. I don't think I'm getting the best use out of it.
No, and I think, it's like Excel. I think we all use it, but we only use, 1 to 10% of it. There's lots
Yeah.
of things it can do, and it's one of those ones where there's some people that are really experts at it, but I think more of us are just kind of dabbling in it and playing around with it, and that's why we've brought Ray back
Yeah.
because, I mean, she was on back in January, and we had lots of responses about LinkedIn and said, "Come on back. Let's talk more about what's going on in LinkedIn and how we can use this thing more effectively."
Thanks for coming back, Rae.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a blast hanging out with you guys.
Yeah. Well, I know that there's a lot of stuff that we covered last time in terms of the profile and really getting the basics set up. But I really wanted to dig down into it. And I kind of touched on it a little bit because we make this assumption that LinkedIn is this thing, right? It's almost like a giant, or it's a place for me to put my resume out there. It's a social network for business. I'm going to put this stuff up there, and someone's going to find me. I'm going to hire me for $1 million a year. Yeah, I know that it's happened all the time, right? That's the way it's supposed to work. So, but I'm guessing that we're probably not using LinkedIn most effectively. It's a great tool, and I can see the potential, but I haven't really dug down deep enough into LinkedIn to really get the best use out of it. So I'm guilty of this, Rae. We needed you to come here and tell us what are some ways that we should be doing. What do I do with this thing called LinkedIn?
Absolutely. Great question. And it is quite the enigma to a lot of folks. So, you brought up a good point. Like, it's sort of this, okay, my resume here, and it's for, social or professional networking, and everything like that. So that's the thing. If you're in business for yourself, you're a sales professional, business development, you own a business, whatever the case, you're not on there to find a job, right? So it's going to be a very, very different way that you're using the platform as opposed to somebody finding a job. And that even goes for, I probably talked a little bit last time about the profile and using your experience section and your profile needing to be marketing forward. Well, same thing here is at the very least, you can consider it a tool to keep up with your network that you already have. So even if you're not using it to do massive reach out in a, B2B campaigns where you're looking to connect with potential customers, you have a professional network, right? Even if you're starting out and you're just fresh from college, which I've recently optimized, a young college student's profile for starting to find a career in a year, right? And so even that's important for everybody to stay in contact with who they do know. And so even if you just look at it from that perspective, it's important to show up. Like they say, about showing up is half the battle. And it's like that's the whole thing, is just having a presence on there, a place where you can connect with people. And as far as getting into content, there is, of course, posting that you can do, posting strategy, but that's only part of it.
So Ray, let's talk about posting, because I don't quite understand that one either. And how's that work? So what's the intent of a post? And then how frequently should you do it? What is it? Assume Benny and I are probably truly novices on this thing. So it's like, don't assume we know anything. And I guarantee a lot of our listeners are in the same boat that we are.
No, that's a great question, Dennis. Yes, let's stop there and talk a little bit about posting. So, when you consider to do a post, you want to be thoughtful about, who's going to be seeing this and what am I trying to accomplish, right? There should be a goal. It's not about let me post to post so somebody sees me. It really should be intentional, or else you're not going to get anything from it, right? Like if you're not intentional about with what you're doing, it's like any marketing strategy. Any detail has to be there for a reason. And it's the same thing with posting. Your question about frequency is a very interesting one for LinkedIn. As opposed to other social media platforms, you get a lot more bang for your buck with LinkedIn, and it's actually a little bit less is more, as opposed to Twitter or X, where, years ago it used to be if you had a strategy for Twitter, you had to be posting like 30 times a day to really get anything out of it, which sounds nuts, right? Instagram and Facebook, they would say multiple times a day, which, those have even shifted a bit too. But with LinkedIn, now more than ever, it's really kind of discouraging to do more than one a day. And you can get really great traction really with 3 posts per week. If you can commit to 3, that's pretty regular enough. I have clients that I do content for, and I have some that I do 3 and some that I do 5. We do Monday through Friday. So there's something going out every weekday. And that's another good point too, that, the highest engagement times, if you think about it, LinkedIn is really used during those like business working hours. So there's sometimes for audiences, there's a good strategy in early morning, because some people that use LinkedIn regularly, it's like when they're, they wake up and they're doing their morning routine, they're quick jumping on their phone to check, that kind of thing, and engaging a little bit before work hours, or it's earlier workout hours, or it's lunchtime. And then it kind of drops off, as the afternoon, evening goes on, like that's sort of, the post. There's all sorts of different reports, of course, that say, like there is some strategy in posting at like 2:00 in the morning. And, I haven't seen that personally, but so there's a lot of information out there on all of that stuff. But really, like I said, you're going to hone in on less is more. But again, quality, quality, quality. And so a lot of times I get, especially from like more Gen Z, like younger, they're like, LinkedIn seems like a brag fest. Like it's always, oh, I got this job promotion. Oh, I won this award. Oh, this, oh, that. And it's not that there is actual real content on there. And now, even more than ever, people are sharing news stories, because there's been a lot of people jumping ship from where the Twitter used to be sort of the hub for news and things like that. So there's people using it in these different ways. And then there's there's trends in sort of story sharing failures and kind of that overcome. Like, how did you overcome in your business kind of thing? So there's a lot of entrepreneurs doing that kind of work.
So, right question there. So, is it okay to take someone else's post and repost it, or do you just respond to people's posts, or what's the etiquette and what's the legal things that we can and can't do around posts?
That's a great question. There could be a whole strategy in just reposting other people's stuff. But what you want to do is make sure that you're commenting in like leaving your own caption when you repost something. So it's like, again, engaging and offering value, like share. If it's an article that somebody else posted, you want to share what struck you about that article, right? You want to share.
So you want to write a comment that, hey,
Yeah.
Ray talked about how to use LinkedIn. I listened to this podcast and learned a lot.
Yep.
I'm going to repost this and you guys ought to listen to the 10-minute mark because it's really valuable. I mean, is that
Right.
kind of what you're talking about?
Exactly what I'm talking about. And that's what you want to be, always intentional. Always, always, always intentional. So it's not just repost. And I'll tell you something interesting about the algorithm. If you post content and you get reposted, that's huge brownie points. Like the algorithm loves that. And
Okay.
then it considers more and more of you being that subject matter expert, and more of you. When you have people actually repost, you're like, oh, this person, the algorithm's reading that as this person has something intentional, something that's thoughtful, something that, is valuable to other people. So they must be kind of like a subject matter expert.
And I'm
And that,
assuming it helps the person that you reposted as well, because now it's getting their message out to even a broader audience than they initially posted to, I'm
yes,
assuming.
it certainly is. So it's really, it really, really helps. And then, like I said, it's not, you can repost just hit the repost button, but it doesn't go very far. Again, it really needs to be a post of its own. And the algorithm then really likes that, because then it's like, it's going out as a post, it's giving you the impressions, but it's also giving credit back to the person whose original post it was. So that's a big thing with that as well.
So another question. So let's say, I've got a LinkedIn account for myself. I mean, I assume if I own a business, like Benny and I have this podcast, we should have LinkedIn accounts for our businesses, LinkedIn accounts for the podcast.
Yes.
We should be doing things. We can repost those different things to each other's sites to help kind of get that message out, help get that going out there as well. And again, are the posts just a topic that is important, that I think is valuable that other people might find interesting to read, or what are you posting? I mean, because again,
Right.
I know there's people like you that write content. I'm sure we can also go to ChatGPT and say, "Hey, help me write a post." But it's like,
Yeah.
you know, what are people posting? What do you say out?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of, because things like ChatGPT has made it so accessible to do content, there's been a huge uptick with, very obviously, AI written content just
Right.
being all over the platform. So the idea is that even if you're using AI to sort of organize your thoughts, it has to be coming from you. You can't, to get something, you want, there's a couple of things that you want to happen. You need the post to be long enough to want people to read it and have something to say.
So how long is long? I mean, what's that? Is
Yeah.
it a paragraph? Is it 5 paragraphs? I mean,
Yeah, so you're gonna wanna you're gonna want to have full, complete thoughts. And gosh, I can't think of character counts, but like you figure, 500 to 2,000. I forget what their limit is. I think it's around a couple thousand for a post. You want it to be 500 probably to 2,000 characters. But the thing is that you need the first two lines to be the hook to grab, because you need people clicking that read more button to read the rest of your caption.
so
A good visual,
you gotta do it early. So you can't
yes, you
embed it
have,
down in the body. Your hook's
yes,
gotta be in that first 2 sentences, basically,
that's
or
right.
first 2 lines.
Because you need people hitting the read more button to fully read. And then, you know, that the image or whatever you're putting with it is kind of secondary, because unlike
Okay.
the other social media platforms, LinkedIn has the caption first. And that's why it's so important that the words, those first sentence, is gotta hook somebody in to want to read it. So even if it is a celebratory, about a promotion, let's say, or an award, or it's something about an event, you need to be providing value with that. It's not just, look at all these great pictures in this event I was at, right? Like
Mm,
even when I
Mhm.
talk about being on something like this, a podcast, right? It'll be, I'm going to start with the meat first. We did, we went, you want to learn more about what to post and what not to, here are some good bullet points. I'm going to list some bullet points, and then I'm going to thank Benny and Dennis and put the link to the pod and be like, for
Okay.
more, listen to the podcast, right? So that's how you're going to want to do the post. You have to set it up that way, again, because you have to draw the reader in to read more on that caption.
So, Benny, you've been quiet. What kind of questions? Because you and I are
no,
not we're definitely novices at this.
yeah, definitely. I'm kind of absorbing this because part of what I'm looking at when I look at LinkedIn, it's very different than, say, any other social media network out there. And for me, part of what I get concerned about, or Dennis and I mentioned about this on a previous podcast is like, and you touched on it too, Ray, is like AI slop, right? And the garbage that's getting put out there, having the authentic voice and really take it very seriously that what you're putting out there is representative of you. And if you're just trying to do this to garner some type of mysterious brownie points or, the Black Mirror social media score, right? Whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
It seems to me that I look at some of the stuff out there and I'm like, this is not really that interesting. It looks like you're just trying to stay active. And those days are really gone. Like you really hit hard when you were saying doing 30 posts on Twitter. Oh my goodness. I'm thinking, yeah, there's no way I was ever going to do that.
You are not going to have the followers, Benny. Like that. You're never
My
going to be a
goodness.
millionaire.
Definitely not a Twitter millionaire, right? So, but I think that there are a few people out there that I see, and it's funny because I've been on those things where I get my picture taken and they tag me on LinkedIn because I went to, a sports game or a networking event or something like that. I think, wow, how is that helping me? I don't know what that's all doing. So how do I figure out what people are going to really be interested in? I mean, I know there's a lot of interesting things in the stuff that I do, but how do I pick? Where do I start? And what do I know? When do I know I'm venturing into like slop? When do I venturing into garbage? I try to be a little bit thoughtful on my approach.
Yeah. Those are all great questions. And that's probably a better use of everybody's time as far as using the AI, right? Like set it up, you have it trained on who's my target audience, who do I want to be engaging on this post, or even if it is just your general professional network, what would be interesting, right? Maybe it's, gosh, I can't even think.
Like the audience I'm trying to attract, find a topic that's relevant that they're interested in.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And that's where, you're going to get something engaging. But really, the more personal and deep you can go, the better now on LinkedIn too, because that's something. So being vulnerable, that's what everybody can relate to, right? That's what everybody's going to read and share.
I mean, give you an example. I mean, this was, gosh, 8 years ago. One of my good friends was a marching band director, and they were going to the Macy's Day Thanksgiving parade. And they had one girl that couldn't afford to go, so we sponsored her. And so my posts were all about her getting ready for the parade, and then she actually sent pictures and things from the parade. That was the most responses we got because it was personal and it was real about what was going on. And so I think to your point, it's not about some topic. It's it's about what's of interest. Think of yourself almost like as a news reporter talking about something that is personal and dear from your heart that you can speak to.
Yes. And that's a great way to have that. And what you can do is, as far as using AI for that, what you can do is put all of your thoughts together and then sort of have a formula and say, organize these thoughts, this story that I just fed you into, what's a good, hook that we can make here. And then it can come up with something for you like, what happens when you share Thanksgiving Macy's Day Parade with, people or something like that. And people are like, oh, what does that mean? Right. And then click and then they want to see the story.
Right. And again, it all goes back, and we've talked about this on previous podcasts. It's all about having a strategy. It's not just jumping in and doing it. It's thinking through kind of what you're trying to solve for and have some logic. And again, make it personal. Don't let AI is a great tool to help you. I mean, create the outline, but you've still got to write the story or the message and make it from your heart, not from some AI tool that is writing something.
Yeah. For sure.
Can I ask? This is a little off topic, but in terms of like making sure I get some visibility, and I see this every now and again. And I may have asked you this before, so I'll apologize. But maybe for the audience who hasn't heard this question before, I occasionally get these things on LinkedIn says to verify who you are, right? And you should verify your profile. Is there any credibility that I'm gaining with that? Is that something you recommend that I do? Does that cost money? What does all that stuff look like?
It is something I recommend that you do. And it's really for your own safety, where LinkedIn then knows that you are not a spam or a bot of some sort because you've actually proved that you are a real person. And what that can help with especially like if your account ever got hacked, it could help with submitting a ticket and stuff like that if you're a verified account and all of that. It is done through Government Clear. The verification, it does not cost any kind of money, but I do, and I get it. It's like you have to share your license and all this information. It's like, gosh, you don't want to put your information out there. But in this case, it really can help, especially if you have a decent amount of connections. Like I said, it can really help with that.
Mhm.
I have a friend that just got his account got booted because he has a VA that signed in like Thailand and like was messaging people. And it's like if he had had the verification, they might not have shut him down. So
One other question, Ray. So people get requests all the time, to become connected with people.
yeah.
Do you I mean, there's some that I don't have a clue who they are. Most of them I know, but I mean, do you recommend accepting those or just denying it, or what's your direction?
It's all really what you're on the platform for. If you just want to look like you have a lot of followers, you can accept those people. I don't. I actually have a setting on mine where you have to know my email address to send a connection request. So,
Okay.
I only connect with people I know. I'm only reaching out to people I've actually met. That is I use it for literally just keeping in contact with people I know in my network.
Interesting. Great.
We've talked a little bit about content. We've talked a lot about, making sure we are thoughtful and intentional about the information we put out there. There are going to be some folks out there, and I know I have some friends that are very introverted, so they're not really looking to kind of have the spotlight shown on them. Are there other ways that people can use LinkedIn effectively that maybe they don't want to necessarily have to put out an article or do any type of anything that kind of brings attention to them in a weird way, I guess?
You can intentionally network by commenting on other people's posts, and you can have that
Mm,
really just be the crux of your strategy. And if you're using it for something like just keeping on top of your network, you might look at your contacts and kind of say, there's like probably maybe a good chunk of, 50, or maybe that's even too big. Maybe it's like 20 people that are really well connected in my network that post a lot that I'd be able to kind of stay really well in contact with just by going and supporting them on their posts a lot. And what can really be helpful is like if you can catch like somebody that's like what you would say like a guru or a subject matter expert that posts a lot, that has a lot of followers and doesn't even respond to comments. But there could be strategy in that, because if you can get your comment to be like one of the first on a post that's going to have maybe hundreds of comments, your comment has impressions too. And so
mm.
then if you say something interesting enough to get somebody to respond on your comments and stuff, there's actually a lot of good strategy in that.
Hmm,
Interesting.
that's
Interesting.
it. Yeah.
There are
Wow.
strategies to all this, so it's like it's not
There
just
is.
it's wild.
I think now, Dennis, after this, we probably have 1% more knowledge about LinkedIn.
Uh,
There's just so much more that Ray
I'm
could teach us. Ray, there are going to be a lot of people with a lot of questions about LinkedIn and really how to maximize utility, but we can't cover it here. So what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you and have some questions?
Sure. I do have a website, leveluponlinkedin.net, and people can, of course, connect with me on LinkedIn. I do have a setting that my connection requests are email protected, so you have to know my email address. It's ray@raygreenip.com. So please, if you're listening right now and you have a couple questions, feel free to connect with me and send me a message. I'm always happy to help.
Ray, just so that we don't miss it. Rae Greenip, can you spell that for everyone?
Yeah, so Rae, RAE, and then it's at raygreenup.com. RAEGREE, N as in Nancy, I, P as in Peter.
All right.
awesome.
Fantastic. Ray, thank you so much for stopping by. There's so much here. This is a interesting topic and I love it. Thank you for making me feel a little bit smarter.
I love it. Thank you
Hey,
guys so
thank you,
much.
Ray. Have a great week.
You've been listening to WFH with Two Guys. We'll see you next time.